So, Penel, be lovely to hear from you, how you managed to get into the medicine wheel and what it's, how it's affected you, what the impact has been. So I'll leave it to you to,
Well, I think when I look back on life, I started doing therapy work about 30 years ago, and I've been working as a craniosacral therapist for 25 years or so. And through that time, not just with work and life and things, I've had my challenges, my ups and downs, divorce and bereavements and other challenges as well. And and I've come through those with various other different ways of support, like psychotherapy and all the other complementary things that I've done. And I've learned a lot and I've grown a lot, but all the way through, there has been a yearning, there's been something missing. And I guess what I feel has been something about there must be something, there's something more. There's something more, and there's something more in me. And I've never been quite satisfied. And I've always felt, well, I'm always reaching for the next thing and and never quite settled. And in the latter years, I know, I'm sure you've heard this before, you're smiling. And the last few years, my work has been leading me much more down the path of connecting much more with nature, connecting much more with the earth in my own way, and leading me. Things keep dropping in for me, and yet still I can't quite get there, and or I couldn't quite get there in the past tense, I have to say, and even to the point of I don't know, all these years I've been working, do I have a website? No, I do not have a website. How many times have I been told you need a website? And I've started one and then not done it. I've started one. I couldn't find my voice. And even though I've got plenty of clients and I've got lots of love surrounding me and family and everything, there's something about the essence of me that was stuck in me and I couldn't find it. And what happened was, um, I was doing some work. I was doing a piece of work with the land that I live on. We some tree connection work and sitting with the trees. And over a period of time, it kept coming to me that this shamanic tradition was was something that I was really drawn to. And someone said to me, "You don't need that. You're already doing it. That's what you're doing." And there was no, there is something, there is something. And I looked around on the internet and I couldn't find what I wanted, and nothing really chimed. And then I thought, okay, go and ask the trees. So I talked to the trees, and the trees said, you just wait, it'll come, but you need to be patient. So I waited. And one day a neighbor came round to borrow something. And I said, oh, I'm doing this workshop. And she said, oh, yes, you like all that sort of stuff, don't you? She said, I've got a really lovely neighbor who's a shaman. And I went, oh, ah, I need her name. I need her name. And I met her, and it was Lisa. And she gave me a session, and I just knew I had to contact you. I knew that was, I was in the right place. There was just, it dropped in, and the trees were right. So that's how I came to choose you and Spirit of the Inca and this tradition. And I just knew, I just felt I was on the right path somehow. And so then moving forward to, being on the wheel for this year, which I've just completed, it's been an extraordinary journey. It's so I think I thought that I was going to come along and I was going to learn some new healing techniques that I could add to my what I already do, my bag, and I would do those, and somehow this was going to help me reach out more. There was this sense of reaching. I have to keep reaching out. It's quite a lot of effort reaching
oh,
out.
Tell me. I know.
And one by one, one client at a time, I'll save the world one client at a time, and it's quite time consuming and it's very energy consuming. And I thought, oh yeah, this is it. This is this new bag. And really quickly into the wheel, it became apparent that that wasn't necessary. Um,
Mm,
I didn't need to reach out of myself to find, I didn't even need to come and find new learning, as it were. I didn't need to add all the learning, that all the teachings I was being taught. It was about it was about finding all of that wisdom within me
mm,
and
mm.
knowing it was there, but finding ways of letting it out and
Yeah.
also giving it a voice and stop ignoring it and stop second guessing it. And
Mm,
I, from the very beginning, that sort of beginnings of just acknowledging what's going on, acknowledging all the stories I tell myself, which aren't necessarily accurate or relevant or true,
mm,
and starting to work them and work with them was the most healing thing I think I've ever done in my whole life. It was a revelation. It was an absolute revelation, and really started. Given I've done loads of work, it's not as if I've never not done any. It was as though it was like, what have I been doing all these years? How simple is this?
yeah.
And it is simple. That's not to say it isn't profound. It is so profound, but it's simple. And it wasn't about what I was applying to anyone else. It was
Mm,
about shifting in me and owning the whole of me and a
mm,
healed me and accepting the bits of me that also need some help and holding them all together and that being
mm,
okay. And
mm,
that has been extraordinary. Um, I think also sort of moving from that one of the things that astounded me right from the beginning was the simplicity.
yeah.
So we look at what's happening, we own our own stories, we own what we're feeling. And then instead of sticking with that, which is what I've done for 30 years and what I did in psychotherapy, where you go over and over it again, trying
Mm,
to find an answer from your brain,
mm,
you just say, well, let's move to another place. Let's not fix it at this level. Let's go over here. Let's just rise above all that and dream a new dream and say, well, what would I like? And how would I like to feel? And what do I want?
mm,
What do I want? And really own that
mm.
and own that energy of something new. And I guess I couldn't believe the first time we did some work on it, how the shift happened. And I was like, hang on, that can't be right.
It can't be that simple,
It
right?
can't be that simple. I don't think I did it right. I do that right? And it was that simple. And it was that simple every single time. And if anything, the hardest thing for me was to let go of the struggle and
Mm,
say, I don't have to work so hard. I
mm,
just need to embody that new story, that new
mm.
beginning, and then let go of it
Yeah.
and not try and control how it comes to me.
Mm.
And the letting go of the control of how it comes was also a complete revelation. And I think was one of the hardest things to do because I'm so used to being somebody who tries to fix it for everybody else. And so those learnings have really started to I'm really starting to embody those and sink in. And I think the year's work, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the beginning, because as you know, I'm coming back round again next year to deepen all of this.
Mm,
It feels like it's not like a course where you go and learn something. It's about a way of it. I feel like I've learned a new way of treading on the earth.
yeah,
That's it's
exactly.
huge to me.
Yeah.
It's huge to me.
Mm,
And the process of that unfolding in connection with all the beautiful ceremony that we do, and the connection with the earth and the connection with the land. It it's just true. That's what it feels. I feel like I've come home.
Mm.
I really feel I'm home. It's just extraordinary. And I think in terms of how, I've talked about how it's affected me personally. My work has entirely shifted. I get entirely different sorts of people coming to me now, um, for much more, for people who they're not just wanting physical help, they're wanting psycho-emotional help, they're wanting some guidance with their lives, not guidance from me, but me
Mm.
to help them with their own guidance, which is the point.
Mm.
The other thing I've really noticed, which was new for me and is now becoming a sort of feeling of, well, yes, of course, this is true, is relationships within my family have shifted without me doing anything.
Yeah. Mm.
Although what I've done is completely sorted out myself. So an example would be my son was having trouble. He lost his job. He had very low self-esteem. There was a whole load of stuff that he was telling himself. And I recognized it because he's my boy. So I know where that's come from.
Mm.
I worked on it in a shadow class that you ran. And all I kept thinking during that class was, I must tell him, I must tell him. And then saying, no, Penel, it's not about him.
Mm.
Work on yourself.
Mm.
He lost his job at the end of November. He was in terrible crisis. We talked about what he wanted and his feelings, and we did some work around his feelings, and a miracle happened.
Mm.
This boy who's 33 years old went from underconfident, I am a worm, I am not worthy, to I can do this. They are lucky to have me.
Mm.
Through nothing I said, nothing I said. It was just the work. And I said, what do you want? He said, I want a job before Christmas so I can have Christmas off, and I want to start in January. He got a job before Christmas. He had Christmas off. He doubled his salary and he started in January.
I love it. I love
And
this.
it's
Yeah.
like, it's that simple.
Mm.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I've been struggling with him for 33 years, and he's been struggling with me for 33 years.
Mm.
And I shifted and he shifted.
Yeah.
And no words. There was no word. There was no advice. There was no nothing. It was just the work.
Well, when we when we clear our own energy of old stories, and those old stories aren't just ours, are they? They come from some other place, Sometimes they're hand-me-downs from the family, sometimes they're just yeah, yeah, yeah in our minds. And when we just release them, then we release everybody in our relationships as well. It's
It's just
magical.
beautiful. It is magical.
Mm.
It is magical, and it's just miracles,
Mm.
miracle, and they happen since I finished this last the East
Mm.
of the Wheel. We've been home 3 days. I've had three people from very different places approaching me. I hear you're doing this. Can you help me? I've had I've had a meeting today. My website's underway.
Wonderful.
I mean,
Yeah. Mm.
it's just dropping. Everything's dropping in, and I'm just holding that note.
Mm.
And but you're right. Yes, a lot of those things which I've cleared have come from an ancestral past. Some of which I know the ancestors, and some of which I don't,
Mm.
as well as stuff that's very familiar within this lifetime.
Yeah.
So it is magical.
Mm.
And I guess
Wonderful.
it's the other thing that really is magical. And this thing about I felt there was something more was this friend of mine who's running this charity. So this for me is if you want to clear your field and show how going in what our tradition is hummingbird to hummingbird, where you dream a new dream.
Mm.
This is a beautiful story. So He is a friend. He came to me and he was saying, I'm having real trouble. He runs a charity which educates young South Africans from the townships. They pick those that look like they might have some promise to be educated right the way through to the end of their careers and become the new leaders. So, not necessarily in terms of intelligence, but in terms of drive and interest and everything. And they want them to be the politicians of tomorrow, the doctors, the teachers, the lawyers. And they give them everything they need to come out of poverty and into the limelight. And it costs a lot of money. And he also has his own job. This is just something he's also set up in aid of a sister that he sadly lost when she was in her 20s. And he said, I need to I need to hold some kind of gala or some dinner or a ball or something big where I can attract people who have the capacity to give decent amounts of money because I need a lot of money. And he said, but it's just at the moment we haven't got any money really to do it. It'll cost a lot to put it on. There was a lot of problems. So we did some work together. The same thing. Well, okay, this is what you're saying. This is what you're telling yourself. This is what you're the story that's surrounding you. These are the blocks. Mm. What is it? And I explained to him about, we talked and we worked on hummingbird, on the hummingbird energy. What is it that you want? What is the dream? How do you see this in the future? So, because we're going to have to hold that note and say, this is going to happen. He was so taken with this. He loved it. He did some work with it. And he went away and he continued to work with it for 2 days. Well, I mean, he went and did it for longer than that. But 2 days later, I got a new flyer that he had designed and he set up the Hummingbird Gala ball. And there's a big hummingbird on it. And he said, this is it. It's amazing. This is going to happen. I've already got a venue. I've got this. I've got this. I've done this. And he made this. He has made this happen. Mm-hmm. And that was 2 months ago. Almost exactly 2 months ago. The dinner and the ball is in about 4 weeks' time. And he needed to raise some money to get it all started. He's got A-list celebrities from the pop industry. He's got film stars. He's got major banks. He's got politicians and 2 or 3 millionaires and billionaires from India, America. The list is so starry of people who have all signed up to either help or pledge money. And he's already raised £92,000.
Wow.
And all these children, I've seen videos of all these children in Africa who are the younger ones at the beginning of their process, all drawing hundreds and hundreds of hummingbirds. And there's hummingbirds everywhere. The whole set design is going to be hummingbirds everywhere.
Wow.
The whole thing. And it's making me tingle even thinking about it. And what I loved about that was what did I do? I was cleaned up myself. I put it out there to him. I enabled him to clear away what he needed to clear. And he then ran with it. And it's just rippled out. It's out. It's so big.
Yeah.
It's so big.
I love this. It's just, such a beautiful story as well. And it goes back to the same thing, Penel. It's simple. It's practical, it's simple, and it works.
Yeah, it really does.
And we get in the way of our own stuff,
Absolutely, absolutely. And that feeling of, like you said, getting in the way of our own stuff. And if I'm tempted, when I'm tempted, which I am, to get back in the way, I'm learning now the universe, nature usually, Mother Earth, will give me a slap. I get reminded, no.
Yeah. Don't interfere.
Don't interfere. Don't interfere.
Yeah. Wonderful. I love these stories. And I think, thank you for sharing that because it just is so inspiring. And although, I've been teaching this for 25 years nearly now, and there are so many stories like this that continue to inspire me because I'm still in awe of the power of this medicine. And the way we teach it, it's experiential, it's not just head stuff.
Yeah.
And, everybody gets the opportunity to experience these shifts and transformations during their year with us. And I love it.
Oh, and I'm so grateful for that
Mm,
experiential
mm,
quality of it. And also the way that it's taught in that year, there's that so much richness and so
mm,
much beauty that comes out of their learnings and so much love.
mm,
I think the fact the whole group, we're a big group this year. I'm
mm,
sure a big group every year. It's so safe
mm.
and it's so nurturing.
Yeah.
And all the learning is just beautiful. It's
Mm,
really beautiful.
yeah. So good. Thank you, Penel. I really
It's
appreciate this. And
it's a pleasure.
yeah, I'm gonna, I don't know how to stop recording. Yes, I'm just going to say a big thank you to you for saying yes to this podcast. And yeah, I hope it inspires other people as well along the
So
way.
do I. So
Yeah,
do I, Chris. And it's
yeah,
just been the most amazing year, and I'm so glad I'm back round again.
yeah, me too. Thank you.
Oh,
I'm going to stop recording now.